Hey guys, it's Marcus and Terry with you today with a Talk Sober. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through some questions that we found on Quora. There's some interesting questions and some even more interesting answers that we found. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about how all this stuff fits together. We're going to talk to you about some good advice, some bad advice, and talk to you about what we did to get and stay sober. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of interesting answers and questions out there. Recently, I've been going through old magazines for my other business, and I got to tell you, some of the ads I found, like they were telling you how to stop drinking, and because it was a big thing back then. These are before the prohibition. These ads came out, and they had all kinds of things. I mean, there was literally anything and everything to help people stop drinking. And at that time, they didn't really know what to do. And I think that our culture today has gotten a little bit better, but they still don't talk to you about what needs to happen and how to get sober and what to do and what's happening in your mind and in your body. And that's what this channel is about, is going through and understanding what's going on in your mind and your body, understanding how chemical dependency works, understanding how this stuff fits together. So if you can hear us okay, let us know by typing something in the box. We're going to fire up the old whiteboard here and talk to you about these questions. And Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm finally moved. At least all my stuff is in the garage.
There you go.
So lots and lots of work to do, but yeah, we're good.
Yes, and you do have furniture behind you, which is good.
Oh,
Looks
that's built
nice.
in.
Built in. Okay, very very nice. All right, so what we're gonna do is go ahead and dive in. If you guys can hear us, okay, let us know by typing something in the box. That way, you know you can in fact hear us, because we did have a little snafu with the stream before. All right, so let's take this first question. Terry, I'll let you take this one first. This was from Quora. It was, how do I stop drinking alone? I mean, the obvious answer is go to the bar, but if you want to quit drinking, we'll have some tips for you. So, Terry, what's your take on how to stop drinking alone?
Oh, this is a tough one because that is the type of drinker I was. And I'll bet lots of you can relate to that. But I drank alone. Well, first of all, the reason I drank alone is so that I wouldn't be called out on it. I would be able to drink as much as I wanted. I didn't have to drive, and it was cheaper. So many reasons to drink alone, but at the same time, I just kept going down that rabbit hole and getting drinking more and more and more, and it just became difficult. Dave says I can't. I can. Oh, okay. He says we're good. All right, but how do I stop drinking alone? I had to reach out. This is one of the most difficult things for anybody to do. It was for me at least. Is I had to reach out, and I had some people that were close to me in my life at the time, and they kind of started to call me out. I kind of admitted how much I was drinking. Didn't really, wasn't totally truthful, but I did explain that I had a problem and I couldn't quit on my own. But it was really that it was letting go, getting rid of that fear of what's going to happen. I think the biggest fear that at least I had was, what am I going to do to quit? It's going to be painful. I know. I was afraid of that. What am I going to do after I quit? How am I going to live life without alcohol, without this thing that helps me get through the day? It was a difficult thing, but I had to reach out, and that's what I think everybody that's trying to quit drinking has to do is you have to reach out. And if it's just somebody that you don't know so well, like your doctor, that's usually the best first step is go see a doctor. And I was afraid of doing that too because I thought they were going to judge me, that I was less of a person. I was afraid of that. There was a lot of fear involved with everything in trying to quit. But the doctor was there to help, and that's what they did. They got me on the road to recovery. It was just a start, but it was one of the most important things to get me towards my sobriety. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, I was pretty much the same way. I didn't have a bunch of drinking buddies or drinking friends. I would go to the bar just because it was, I could go have 10 at the bar and then go home and be like, okay, well, I haven't had that many, and then have more at home so I wasn't judged. Drinking and driving was a very bad decision. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. And I absolutely regret the times I didn't. But for me, it was, how do I stop drinking alone? The answer to that question really needs to be, how do I stop drinking? Right? Because when it's, how do I stop drinking alone? The best thing to do is not to have alcohol as an option and not to have alcohol in your house. For me, I had to create a life where I didn't need to drink. Like Ben says, create a schedule where you won't be able to drink. Create a
Yeah.
schedule where you're not sitting around and drinking all the time. I found that when I was drinking, my life was all about drinking. It revolved around going to the bar, going to the alcohol store, um, how much I had, how much I didn't have, how much I needed. It revolved around alcohol. And as an alone drinker, I needed to really decide, okay, drinking is the problem. It's not me being alone that's a problem, because I can be alone now and I'm fine. Right? I just get a bunch of work done, read a book, listen to a talk, go for a walk, whatever it is. So it wasn't the alone that was the problem, although I will caveat that with something that I've heard a lot in recovery is that people are not comfortable being alone because they're not comfortable in their own skin. Now, if that's the case, I would highly urge you to look for the video on this channel entitled Anxiety is a Symptom of Something Bigger. Because a lot of alcoholics and a lot of people struggling with addiction, they also struggle with identity crisis. And identity crisis is something that's big. It's another topic for another day. If you want us to go deeper into that, let us know in the comments and in the chat box. Say, yeah, give us some videos on identity crisis. Because a lot of people, they drink alone because they're having that identity crisis, and all of their identity becomes about drinking, and they think, okay, what's going to happen if I'm not the drinking guy, right? And so my answer would be, all of those things revolved around drinking, so drinking is the thing that needs to stop. Now you might say, well, Marcus, I don't believe that it's the big... Okay, fine. If you don't believe it's the big problem, quit drinking for a year. Oh, well, I can't... Okay, well, then it probably is the big problem. If you're not willing to give something up for a year, then, it's a big problem. And we have to look at that. If the doctor tells you to do something, you do it, right? If you realize that your life is having this trouble because of drinking, you quit. But as addicts, we're dealing with chemical dependency. So how to stop drinking alone? I would say take alcohol off the table. Don't drink at all, at least for a set period of time. Go to alcohol meetings or recovery meetings or whatever. Even if you don't jive with it, personally, it's a little religious and a little different from my take, but I did use it as a stepping stone to sobriety. And one of the things that I learned early in sobriety is don't be picky about where you get your truth, right? I would take it and say, oh, well, that guy's AA, right? Like 10 years ago, if I met Terry and Terry said, Marcus, I know how to get sober, I'd be like, oh, you're one of those AA guys. I wouldn't listen to him. But now I listen to Terry and I'm like, this dude's got some good stuff to say. Doesn't matter what group he hangs out in or what style of recovery he does. He's got good things to say. And I would have pridefully missed out on a lot of good things because I was on my high horse saying, oh, we don't listen to these people and we don't listen to those people. And here I am great, yet I'm a drunk who can't control my life. So don't be picky about where you get your truth and do what you got to do to get sober. And if you're worried about not drinking alone, look at the places that you end up alone and take the booze out of there, right? Anything else to add to that, Terry?
Well, moving on in sobriety. So you get sober, and then how do you? You're no longer drinking alone because you're sober. But part of getting sober, and this is how do I stop drinking as well. Is that the next question? Yeah, but part of that is changing your mindset. It's a really difficult thing to do when you're still drinking, but once you've managed to at least stop drinking and stopped isolating, one of the things to do is really change your mindset. And it was just said earlier, I think Ben said it, which was to develop that life that basically I always say develop a life that you don't have to run from, and that would be running to alcohol. So fill your day with things to do, staying busy. Alcohol off the table, that's a great thing to do. I took it out of my house. I also took all the medicines, anything, pain pills, anything like that. Those went away. For old prescriptions, I wasn't on them, but I took all that stuff out of the house. And and those little things like vanilla extract that has a lot of alcohol in it, got rid of it, and really tried to stay away from alcohol too. Of course, you can't avoid it in the supermarket; it's everywhere. But you can not go down the alcohol aisle, or at least not face that way. For me, bread was on the other side, so you get it. But whatever, I'm digressing. But developing a mindset um, of gratitude. And then for me, it's what can I do to help somebody else? What can I do for my sobriety today? Am I going to go to a meeting, or am I going to hit one on Zoom, or just hit one of these talks that we have, or talks that anybody else has for that matter? For me, I had to do everything I possibly could to get sober and to stay sober. I mean, that was huge. I still make sobriety my top priority, because if I'm not sober, I'm not going to have anything else in life. But that mindset of just what am I going to do towards sobriety? I just did this big move, and moved. It was a long process. I had to get the house ready. I had to and move my wife early because she got a job, then go back and fix up the house more, get it ready for sale, go through the sales process, and then go through the moving process. And there was a lot of stress there. It would have been so easy to drink, and it would have just been devastating if I started to drink. That would have been a horrible thing to do. But because I'm sober and I put that as my top priority, I still did the meetings as much as I possibly could. That's what works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. That's okay. But that was for me, it's just a really easy way to work on sobriety every day. Go to a meeting. It's an hour out of my day. But I do that, and then I'd work on the moving things. What do I have to do next? This is like sobriety for the move. It was like, okay, I need to talk to my realtor. Okay, he's telling me to do this and that for the house. All right, what do I need to do this and that for the house? Just taking these little steps. The whole move was a huge thing. I mean, Marcus moved a few years back. He knows, and I'm sure many of you have as well. But those little steps, and then after when it went on the market, okay, I can't live in the house. Where am I going to live? I live in my trailer for a month. Okay, that's what I did. And then, these little things. What do I do to live in the trailer? And just going down the line. Then the move. There was lots of little hiccups, but there was never a huge problem because I just went with the flow. I did what I thought was right. Next, I listened to the people that know what they're talking about. The realtor, I researched the moving companies and got one that's highly rated, and it worked. Things like that. Dealing with the mortgage brokers and all that stuff, and dealing with our realtor here where we bought our house. These are the things I had to really let go and listen to them rather than me trying to push what my thoughts are on what we should do. Sometimes I didn't agree with them, but it worked out for me. This is what sobriety was. Getting sober, staying sober for me, is I had to listen to people that had successful sobriety or have successful sobriety. And that's the type of thing I've done in sobriety, is listen to them. Even now, I try to listen to what people are saying. I've been sober for quite a few years now, and I need to remember that I don't have this. I am sober. I'm sober today. I think I'm going to stay sober. I think I'm going to stay sober for a long, long time to come. But I still have to remain teachable. Just like the house I just bought, it has a septic system. I've never dealt with that. I have to learn that, and it's got acreage, and I got to deal with those things. And there's all sorts of little things I have to learn here. I have to stay teachable. Same with alcoholism. I have to stay teachable. And, I can learn things from people with a lot more sobriety than me, but I can learn things from people that are just getting sober, or maybe even not even sober yet. I can still learn things. And that's a huge thing for me to stay sober. So, yeah, it's a journey. It's not a difficult thing to do, but I do have to stay open-minded.
Absolutely. All right, next question. I think I'm going to take one from Theo in the audience here. We'll take a question from good old Theo here. He says, let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that's the best we're going to get. Theo says, after 20 years of drinking a lot, I found out that I was self-medicating and I was bipolar. Now I use medication and I stopped completely drinking. Do you think that many alcoholics are self-medicating? I'll start this one out by saying I really have a hard time when doctors say you're self-medicating, primarily because it gives us an excuse to keep drinking. I know it did for me. It was, okay, you're self-medicating, therefore I don't know what else to do. Um, and also, alcohol is not medicine. Alcohol is alcohol. It makes you drunk. It doesn't make you well. Like I don't think anyone's ever gone to the doctor and they're like, take 2 shots of booze. I remember one time when I was like 18 or something, the tooth doctor said, mouthwash with whiskey. But that was when I was younger, and probably wasn't the best advice, but that's all I had. So that's what I did. But alcohol is not medicine, and the idea that we are self-medicating with alcohol is a very dangerous idea, in my opinion. And also, I think we need to realize that in many cases, alcohol exacerbates the mental symptoms you're going through. So, like, I have OCD, and I got it pretty bad sometimes. Like, sometimes it's real bad. But it's never as bad as when I drank. My OCD would go off the charts when I drank. And they'd say, oh, you're self-medicating, but the medicine wasn't working, and it's not medicine, and I ended up drunk, and now I'm an alcoholic because someone said I was self-medicating. So when people say that, I want to be the first to say here and now on our channel that alcohol is not a medicine, unless your doctor tells you otherwise. Alcohol is alcohol. It's used for relaxation and drinking and whatever it's used for. It's not a medicine. And so when we look at that and we say, well, self-medicate, 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 it kind of gives us this excuse to continue drinking because we're thinking that we're doing something good. And I think that's very, very dangerous. And I think that, if you think you're self-medicating, go to an actual doctor, not a therapist or whoever. Not that there's anything wrong with therapists. I think they're great. But I have gotten some bad advice from therapists. So we have to look at that. And we have to understand exactly what's going on. And we have to do our due diligence and say, okay, am I medicating and is this working? Do I need to go see a psychiatrist or, something other than this drinking? Because drinking is not going to work, and drinking will bring you to a point where you have no choice but to get sober or continue in lunacy. The idea of self-medicating took me to a mental hospital, took me to the ends of my ropes because I thought I was doing something good. I'd rather self-medicate than, go on this other stuff. And I remember I even went to a psychiatrist, and I go to the psychiatrist, and I was drinking at the time, so maybe my memory of this is a little skewed, but I went to the psychiatrist, and the guy goes, hey, no matter what happens at the end of this meeting, you give me $300, whether you like me or not. And I'm like, that's how you start your meeting? That's how you start this thing? And basically, he was a guy who, for $300, he would have written me any prescription I wanted, but I went because my therapist told me to go. And so that meeting ended with, I'm not going to give you $300 if that's how you start the meeting, and I'm going to leave. And he's like, fine, you can leave right now if you do this or do that. And it was very convoluted, and I was really disheartened by the process and by the fact that there were some cracks in the system and by the fact that people said, oh, you're not an alcoholic, you're self-medicating. You're not an alcoholic, you're an alcohol misuser. And I'm like, I wish someone would have just come along and been like, dude, you're an alcoholic. Face the fact. Because it would have saved me a lot of heartache and a lot of trouble in my life. And, I think the mental issues we deal with, and again, Terry and I are not doctors, we're not physicians, we're not medical guys, we're not, therapists or we're none of that. I'm just a guy who got sober. Terry's a guy who got sober. And we went through some things that I think can help you out because alcoholics fall through the cracks. That's a sad fact of our society. It's been that way since the Bible. Like the Bible was like, what are we going to do with these alcoholics? Here we are 2,000 years later. What are we going to do with these alcoholics? Actually, I think 6,000 years later. And we have to understand that we need to figure out what to do on our own. And we need to figure out, one, alcohol needs to be off the table because that is just going to make everything worse. Now, his question is, do I think many alcoholics are self-medicating? I think many alcoholics are drinking and they think it helps, but it doesn't. Let me say that again. I think many alcoholics are drinking and they think it helps, but it doesn't. It's not helping. Not at all. It's making it worse. It's pushing the can down the road, and then 5 years later, you're going to figure out, oh, now I got all these issues, and I'm an alcoholic, and it might be too late. It might not be able to be reached. So I think that's a delicate issue. What do you think about that, Terry? Let's let you weigh in on this question.
Well, for me and my experience, I was kind of self-medicating with the alcohol, but it was self-medicating because of alcohol. Like for me, I would have my stomach, I'd start to get nauseous, right? And this was when I was pretty deep into my alcoholism, and I'd start to get nauseous. And a couple drinks would make that go away. You think it wouldn't, but for me it would. Or I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'd do 4 or 5 shots, be able to go back to sleep. At least I thought it was sleep, but it wasn't sleep. It was passing out. Or I used to get dizzy. I had so many medical issues when I was drinking. I used to get dizzy. So I'd sit down and have a drink and it would go away. These were all symptoms of withdrawal, is really what it was. And so I had to drink more because I was physically addicted. So for me, that was the kind of self-medication that I would do. And sure, of course, like many of us, I'd drink because something was going badly in my life. I'd drink because I was celebrating something. I'd drink for any reasons. I think a lot of times people may use the self-medicating, that those words as a justification for continuing to drink. Well, I drink because it helps me calm down. I had a very difficult day, or something like that. Or I saw a news report that says 2 glasses of wine every day is good for you, and so they drink those 2, but then they keep drinking and drink 15 more, or something like that. So for me, it kind of was a little bit, but it was more of a justification. I had to take alcohol off the table, and that would absolutely not be a medication for me at this point. It would be the opposite. It would kill me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a difficult thing to deal with. Self-medicating is very. I let's replace that with fake self-soothing. I think that's what
Yeah,
they're doing. Self-soothing.
yeah.
Um, I don't know who came up with the, you know, self-medicating idea, but whoever they are, I probably guarantee I put money on the fact that they were a drunk. Um, and so I would watch out for that. Medicine comes from the doctor, and I don't think the doctor's ever been like, here's a pint. I don't know. I mean, maybe that psychiatrist that wanted his $300, maybe he would have done that. You are now prescribed pints. Go to the liquor store. I got this here. He says this is what I got to have. But I think it's a dangerous thing, and I think if you think you're self-medicating, go to the doctor, go to a psychiatrist that's good. Make sure he's not, a money pusher guy, and get on the right stuff that you need to have. Get your stuff sorted out. But I think a lot of us will figure out, like for me, when I got sober, I thought there was going to be this mountain of mental anguish to weed through. I thought I was going to get out of rehab and have to call people and have to do this and have to do that. I didn't. I got sober and all that stuff kind of fell by the wayside. I got sober and I started creating a new way of thinking. For me, a new way of thinking, not like, I have created a new way of thinking. Welcome to L. Ron Hubbard's society, right? No, I created my own way of how I want to think. And it was good because I understood that the flaws were in my way of thinking. And it's something that we talk about here on the channel. If I can find my pen, I don't know where my magical pen is. But, you know, it's something we talk about here on the channel, which is the difference between the thinking of mind and the content of your mind. And the thinking of your mind, or the working of your mind, is the way your mind works. People with these issues that they're self-medicating, they think that the content of the mind is everything. Because you're like, oh, I'm stressed out because of work. No, you're stressed out because you're the type of person who stresses out. That's what you are. Like, they have people in life they call worry warts. And they're worry warts because they worry about everything. There's my pen. All right, we're in business, right? So what happens is you have this person over here that's a worry wart, okay? And the way it works is you give someone something to think about, and it's going to go around, and it's going to be worrisome. Like the other day, okay? I have OCD, and I got my blood test back, and my wife's like, you have a very high level of something. And I'm like, oh my God, this means I'm a goner. That's what I think, and I'm stressed out. And I'm thinking about this. And I go to my wife, I'm like, what was that thing called again? And she's like, I'm not telling you because I know you're going to Google it. And so she looked it up, and it has to do with the fact that I have asthma-induced allergies. That's all it is. It was elevated because of that. But what happened was I gave my brain this content that said elevated whatever. And it goes around the circle. I'll probably have cancer. Maybe I have this. Maybe I have that. Maybe I have this. Maybe I got this rare thing that only one person every century gets, but apparently I have it. This is the working of the mind. But what happens is you're going to go through and you're going to look at this. Here's our eye. And you're going to look at this and you're going to go, it's because of the content. It's because of the blood test or the health issue or whatever it is. And you are going to think that the problem is the content. The problem's not the content. Because if you go to someone who is not a worrywart and you're like, hey, you got this thing, it's probably because of allergies. There you go. Okay, well, you know, in June, when the allergies are gone, I'm going to be fine. But no, the worrywart has this. So when you realize that this is the way that your mind operates, I don't care what you give it. I don't care, right? You drink some tea and you see a news report about tea leaves and a problem with tea leaves in Antarctica. And you start worrying, even though you don't live in Antarctica, you're worrying because maybe somehow, some way that tea leaf got into your tea and you drank it and now you're sick. No. Stop attributing it to the content. This would be like saying, oh, I'm self-medicating. No, you're not. You have this issue. This is how your brain is working. All right? Now, the secret is to go above it and say, oh, that's how my brain works. That's how it works. Give it something, whatever, it's going to worry, because I'm a worrywart. Alan Watts said, a person who worries will always find something to worry about. That's the way they work. A person who is scared, they're going to have it, right? Very, very important. But if we go above it and we say, oh, that's the way my brain works, it's just going to do that. I don't care what you give it. That's how it works. Then you go above it a level and you start to understand that you are not your thoughts. You are not what's been done to you or what you do. You are something more than that. I am not the sum of my thoughts. I am not a worrier. Okay, that's the way it works. Sure, that's what's going to happen. But I don't have to engage. And I think that's important. What do you think about that, Terry? Do you have crazy issues like I do?
Absolutely not. No, I'm just kidding. It's very easy for me to worry, and it's definitely part of my life. Absolutely, I worry right now. Going through the move, I worried. There was lots to worry about, of course, especially moving all of your stuff and handing it over to these guys you don't know, that they're just like, they throw it in an old beat up truck, and you're like, oh boy, is my stuff going to be safe? I don't know. You know, I had lots and lots to worry about. Are we going to find the house we need? I go down the list. There's a million things to worry about. But what I did is, what Marcus was talking about, first I realized I'm not the sum of my thoughts. It's okay. Worrying is a natural thing that's going to happen. I am going to worry. But put my trust into the people that know what they're talking about. You know, do my my due diligence, definitely, and definitely communicate with those people. But one other thing that helped me a lot is, well, I have my wife, but that I could communicate everything with, and I could say, I'm really worried about this. I know I'm probably worrying for no reason or anything, it's going to be fine. 99% of the time, these things are okay. But I read on the internet that moving companies screw you over, that type of thing. So it kind of hits at me with both directions. But having somebody I can communicate about these problems it's important. And that's the same with my alcohol use. Is Marcus and I will finish this. We'll probably talk a little bit after our YouTube live here, and we bounce things off each other. So, and I have other people in my life that are sober or that know I'm sober that I can talk about issues with, about these serious issues that I worry about, and that helps me a lot. So that's kind of the way I approach the worry. Is I as was said, I realize that I'm not the sum of my thoughts, but I also need to communicate with other people to get their perspectives. Somebody that I might know, they or somebody that I know is going to give me a more objective opinion on the matter, and that's usually going to help me and help me move in the right direction, help me move forward, and help me get through these things that are so stressful to me.
Absolutely. All right, next question here. How do I become a good parent without quitting
Mm.
alcohol? Okay, now this is a loaded question. This is very loaded because I would venture to say that if you're worried about becoming a good parent without quitting alcohol, you probably think you're a bad parent because you drink alcohol. Like, I don't know. That's kind of what I see in there. Do you guys see that? Like, I don't really worry about that right now. I don't really worry about how do I become a good parent without quitting unless alcohol's in the way. So I'd venture to say that this person's probably on the way to alcoholism and being an alcoholic, or maybe they're just, I don't know, or maybe they're just a bad parent. I don't know. But we have to look at this and we have to understand that if you are a bad parent because you're drinking alcohol and you're looking for a way to be a good parent but not give up alcohol, you need to give up alcohol. Plain and simple. Like, it becomes a matter of, do I care about my children enough to give up alcohol? And this is one of the reasons I quit, because my kids were like, we don't really want to be around you when you drink. And I was like, well, hell no, I'm not going to live without my kids. So I need to figure out a way to get rid of this alcohol. And that was one of the things that was a big caveat to me getting sober was, do you want your kids and no alcohol, or do you want to be a drunk? And my body and my mind said, don't take the alcohol away. Don't take it away. You need the alcohol. But then I realized millions of people are sober and they're fine. It's an illusion. When you look at this, and I got a family member, very close family member, who deals with this all the time. When you look at this, here's the issue. Why are you protecting alcohol more than your relationship with your kids? Why? That's the insanity. It's called
Yes.
alcoholic insanity. And we are so insane with alcohol. Like, this is why I had a bad problem with this guy saying self-medicating. Because it's not medicating. It makes you think it's medicating. Alcohol is a liar. And I wanted to use the F word there, but if we use the F word, we're not going to get our $2 from the channel, from the videos. we gotta keep it safe there. And if you want us to make more than $2, go to talksober.com and sign up, and we'll make $27. Barely, I don't know. We'll make enough to keep the lights on. But we have to look at this and we have to say alcohol is a liar. It is lying to you. It's what it's doing. It's saying you need me. You can't live without me. But it's a liar. Go be a good parent. After you're done parenting your kid, which never ends, mine are 20 and 19 now, and we're still parenting. I'm sure we will be when they're 50 and 60, if we're still around. But we have to look at that and say, alcohol's lying to me. Alcohol is lying to you, and you need to say, I'm going to be a sober parent. That's what I'm going to do. sobriety is the key there. How do I become a good parent without quitting alcohol? You don't. If you're already questioning it, it's probably too late, in my opinion. So get the alcohol off the table. Get it off the table. You're going to gain a much better life. It doesn't seem like it now. It seems like right now you're going to give up the only thing that works. But you know what? Alcohol's a liar. It says it's the only thing that works. My life works better just having no alcohol. Like here I was thinking, what am I going to do? Wait a minute. So without alcohol, I don't feel like I need alcohol? Uh-huh. That's the lie. And if you stop listening to it, you say, you know what? Screw all this. I'm going to be a good parent. That's what I'm going to focus on. What are your thoughts on that, Terry?
Exactly what you said. I really don't have much more to add to that. Just that's it. If you're questioning that, that probably means you need to stop drinking, or at least try to not drink for a year and see how that goes. And once you do that, focus on taking care of your kids, putting them as your high priority in life. And you know, what am I going to do today to help them? They need a ride. I'm going to go to the soccer game with them. I'm going to be nicer to them. I'm not going to yell at them. I'm going to be supportive of them. All those things that we try to do on a daily basis, on a minutely basis. That's what I do. Hey, DWH, congratulations on 3 days. I know it's difficult. No withdrawal symptoms. That's good. You probably should see a doctor anyways. That's what I needed to do. And I always think that's a great answer because the withdrawals can kick in even after 3 days. And who else is right here? Sitch One, I see you. You're asking us to do a talk on identity and drinking. So, all right, I'll write that down, and maybe we'll get to that soon. Right on.
Victor says, I went to see a doctor, and he just wanted me to go to rehab. Maybe you need to go to rehab. I went. I'm glad I did. Best decision I ever made. I didn't want to go. I didn't think I could leave my life for a month. I didn't think I could afford it. But I did it. And now I'm coming up on 8 years sober.
Yeah.
You know, it's scary. And make sure you go to a good one, do your research. And make it a work of sobriety. Like, you spent more than a month drinking, so why not take a month and learn how to not drink? I think that's important. And he says doctors don't want to deal with alcoholics. Some don't. Some do. I'm going to find the one that does. In life, you need to realize that it's your job to find the answers and the help that you need. I remember one day I was sitting in the therapist's office, and this is the therapist that told me I had alcohol misuse and I self-medicated. And here I was, like, ready to end my life because of my alcohol misuse and self-medicating. I don't know any medicine that, you know, we'll get into that later. But I was sitting in her office, and finally she had said, yeah, you should probably go to rehab. And I was ready to go. My stuff was packed, and the rehab, like, saw me, and I did a tour of the rehab, and then nothing happened. I was like, where are the people that take you away and get you to, where is this? And I found out that a lot of places just wanted money or an insurance card or something like that. And, you know, luckily my wife found a rehab that was decent. And by decent, I mean, they focused on sobriety. You know, like, I don't think it would have worked if I went to, like, pet a horse for a month or, like, you know, did arts and crafts. No, I needed a rough place with a guy who's like, you're an alcoholic, dumbass. And he said that to me every day for 30 days. He's like, you're an alcoholic,
Yeah.
dumbass. He's like, okay, you keep drinking because of this, you're an alcoholic. And I needed to hear that. Petting horses would have been fine and good, and horses are great, but I needed someone to say, alcohol is a problem. Hey, guess what? You know, I feel like the problem. No, alcohol's a problem. Well, you know, I get headaches. Alcohol's a problem. Deal with the alcohol. Dealt with the alcohol, and everything else worked. Didn't say everything.
And at the same time, he was the most loving, nicest guy in the world. It was amazing.
Yeah, he's a good guy. You know, and sometimes we need it pounded into our head that alcohol's the problem.
Yeah.
Because the more we dance around it and the more we say that it's not, the deeper it digs its hooks in and the harder it is to stop. And the more excuses we make and the more we give alcohol the props. Hey, this is what makes me do this. Hey, this is. No, it doesn't. All of the feelings that you muster in your life are feelings that you muster. Like, even being intoxicated is your body trying to get rid of the alcohol. That's what it's doing. It's an allergy to alcohol. It's like, I want to get rid of this. So you get all these symptoms, right? Same kind of thing with other stuff. And we look at it and we say, oh, well, this is because. No, it's not. Like, there's a group of people. Victor says rehab is like jail. That's what I thought, but I actually really liked it. It wasn't like jail at all. We didn't have cells, and there was no, cup banging and all that. It was not at all like jail. Um, it was.
I agree. Yeah, there were rules. You know, if we leave the property, we don't get to come back, things like that. And they did. We weren't allowed cell phones. I think most of them allow cell phones now. I'm not sure. I think it depends on which one you go to. But
I'm
for me,
glad
it
ours
wasn't.
didn't.
Yeah. No, me too. Yeah, that was good. They had a payphone. You had to have people call you collect,
Yes.
or you had to call them and then accept the collect calls. It
And
was pretty funny.
and I would say, if you're worried that alcohol is like, or alcohol, like that rehab is like jail, which is what my worry was, it's not. It's like camp. It's like going to camp. Um, so I would do what you have to do. And if you do go to rehab, focus on your sobriety. Forget what everyone else is doing. Forget about
And
what they're doing.
Victor, there are other ways to stay sober. I mean, I know many people that did not go to rehab. There's outpatient therapy through your hospital. Of course, there's AA, but I think the most important thing here is for me, I had to stay open-minded when I got sober. So I had to do whatever I could do to stay sober. And for me, rehab was part of my journey. I didn't stay sober after I got out of rehab, but it was huge in my sobriety. It was big. But the main thing that got me sober was being open to whatever was out there, listening. And after I was sober for a little while, then whittling it down to what I thought was working for me and what was working for me. That's what I had to do. I think I wouldn't have gotten sober if I closed off any of those avenues towards my sobriety. I really had to open up and just accept the fact that I needed help, and I had to do whatever it was going to take.
Absolutely. And we are about out of time. Is there uh, any pressing questions there?
Well, we'll get to more of those core ones soon.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Victor, what I would do, first of all, if you're in the United States, there's regulations about having doctors on site at rehab, so I think you'll be okay. But I would focus on what it is you're going to do to get and stay sober. Whether that's I mean, I don't care. Like, in hindsight, I would do whatever it took, but, I'm speaking as a sober person, not a drunk person. When I was a drunk person, I would have done everything except give up alcohol. That's what I would have done to get sober. But I had to understand that alcohol was the problem. And, from someone who went through it, do what you got to do. Like, if you're worried about it or you can't go to rehab or whatever, go to 3 meetings a day. Well, I don't agree with it. Fine, don't agree with it. You can go there and not agree. There's no law that says you have to go to a meeting and agree with everything and sing kumbaya. No, you just go. Why? Because there's structure. You're doing 3 things every day for an hour to not drink. Right now, you're doing nothing. If you're anything like me, you're doing nothing. So, what is it you're going to do? What are you going to replace it with? I think in the beginning, the social model of treatment is good, which is why rehabs work. A lot of us alcoholics are alone people, and we isolate, and that forces us out of it, right? And use these things as tools. Okay, going to meetings, that's a tool. Doesn't mean you need to get the book and tattoo it on your forehead. No, it means you go there and you're saying, I'm making a step to getting sober. I'm going to do what I have to do, right? And that's what you do. And you do it all day, every day. And make a commitment. It needs to be a big, bold commitment that I'm not going to drink anymore. And whatever I have to do to not drink, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. If it's rehab, make it rehab. If it's meetings, make it meetings. If it's talks, make it talks. But I'm not going to go to the bar. I'm not going to get the booze. I'm not going to have one. I'm just going to have one. Marcus, you understand, I just want one. When have you ever had one of anything? Come on now. I go to the bar and I have one after another, after another, after another, after a pint, after a gallon. It's just stop fooling yourself. Do what you got to do to get sober. That's an important thing.
Hey Tina, good to see you. Looks like you're right towards the end, but the replay will be up on YouTube in a few hours.
And Tina says, I'm sober 100 days. Congratulations. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Getting to the 90 days that's a big deal. Huge deal. So applaud that. Mainly by avoiding social situations, afraid I might cave with friends. Well, Tina, what I would do is maybe get yourself some sober friends, and then you can revisit the other friends later. Like right now, 8 years sober, I can go hang out with people that drink, and I have no problem. Last thing I want to do is drink. I don't even care. So get some time under your belt and get a plan of what you're going to do. Victor says, why is detox so dangerous? Detox is dangerous because of the hell that alcohol wreaks on your body. There's a lot of things that are going on there, and you always want to go to a doctor when you're detoxing.
Yeah, I wish I could give you the exact medical reasons why detox is dangerous, but what I do know is detox almost killed me. So for me, that's why it's dangerous. It almost killed me. Literally, I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that was not from being drunk. That was from coming off of alcohol.
Yeah, and I think it's a serious issue. And we need to focus on what we got to do. And we need to stop listening to all the stuff, because, I mean, let's face it, the internet's got answers for everything, but it also has some bad answers. And it's our job to look at it and to understand, because, I mean, if you want to justify your drinking, there's tons of people out there, oh, moderation is the key. Well, maybe, maybe not. I tried to moderate lots of times. It didn't work. My life is way better not moderating, because I'd still be trying to moderate. And I know, like this weekend, we went up and had my dad's service buried in Alabama. And if I said, oh, I'm going to moderate, I probably would have gotten drunk that weekend, because there's certain situations I can't handle for whatever reason. And if I handle them without alcohol, it's much better. But I know if I had alcohol to lean on, I would lean on it. But I didn't. So I didn't have that issue. And that's why, for me, alcohol off the table is the most important thing. All right. With that said, if you guys got topics you want us to cover, put them in the comments. If you want to support the channel, go to talksober.com. Click the big yellow button and sign up. You'll get all kinds of tools and recovery stuff and audios and videos and printouts and fancy stuff to help you get and stay sober. Talks a lot about the mindset stuff. So talksober.com, go over there, sign up, support the channel, big yellow button, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see you.